Alrighty guys, so I just left the gym and I was talking to one of my buddies. He kind of got me a little fired up. I was kind of shouting at the gym and I wanted to try to capture that moment. I don't know if I still got it. I drove for a little bit. It's quite cool outside. I've calmed down quite a bit. But what I want to talk to you today is I want to talk to you about bad cops. I want to talk to you about turning in bad cops. And I want to talk to you about how we find bad cops. And I want to ask you, how do you know when you found a bad cop? Because I'm at the gym, I see my dude. It's a guy that I'm good friends with him. I've known him for freaking years. Probably known him for 6-7 years. We've gone to the same gym together. He's a black dude, big jacked muscle dude, got tattoos all over him. Grew up in not a good area. We talk all the time. He knows what I do. He talks about how when he was growing up, he saw guys shuffling, crack. He'd be in their houses watching people cooking crack, doing all that stuff. He got out of that life. He somehow made it out of that neighborhood that he was in, and he's doing very well for himself. Just a solid dude. He's got a child from a previous marriage that unfortunately lives across the country, and he doesn't get to see her very often, but when she's in town he brings her to the gym. And I remember one day he calls me over. He's like, "Hey man," he calls me by my name. He's like, "I want you to meet my daughter." And he puts his hand around his daughter and he goes, "Hey, this is my friend." He says my name. He goes, "He's a police officer." And this little girl, little black girl, comes running over to me, gives me this big hug, and just holds on for like 30 seconds, wouldn't let me go. It got awkward. That's the extent that I know this guy. Like we're good dudes, we're buddies. And I hadn't seen him for a little while. With me changing shifts and me kind of running 2 YouTube channels, I don't have the time. I'm not in the gym the same amount or the same time periods that I used to be, whatever. He's a busy guy too. But what he took his headphones off and came over to talk to me about today was, he was like, "Hey man," he's like, "I haven't had a chance to see you." He's like, me and Marco were really close. We lived in the same neighborhood. You remember Marco Moreno, the officer who was a narcotics officer and was busted by the feds for dealing with the cartel. He knew Marco. They lived in the same neighborhood. His current wife and Marco's wife were friends. Their kids played together all the time. They spend time together for holidays. So he came over to talk to me about the holidays and had to bring up Marco and his wife, and how he was just like, he's talking about hanging out with Marco's wife and how it would go well, and then all of a sudden she would just break down in tears. And he's sitting there like, he's like, "What are you gonna do?" He's like, "I can't believe that this guy did this stuff, but he was a friend of mine." He's like, "I've known him for years. We talk about all these stories, and how when we talk about this bus, that bus, Marco would always be like, 'Yeah, it's the money, man.' He's like, 'People get the money, they get it in their head, and that's what controls these people.'" And here he is, he's talking to Marco. He's his friend, and he's a good guy. From everything that he sees, he's a good guy. He's a family man. He's a hardworking dude. And that's what kind of made me think. I looked at him. I was like, here we are. Me and you both were good friends with a guy who turned out to be a bad cop. And he's like, how are we supposed to know he's a bad cop? That's the thing about bad cops, is they don't fucking tell good cops what they're doing. Like, why would they? They know that we're not playing the same game that they are, so they're not going to tell us what they're doing. And this kind of brings up one of my other pet peeves, is I get so freaking tired of people, and you're not hurting my feelings by doing this. All you're doing is you're putting your own ignorance on display. But people will come at me, they'll send me emails, they'll blow up my YouTube channel, get themselves banned because I don't deal with fucking morons. But But they'll write these like long tangents about how many racist cops have you turned in? How many dirty cops have you turned in? Like, I won't respect you until I find out that you've been turning in dirty cops. How am I supposed to know who dirty cops are? I'm a good guy. I don't do that shit. I don't associate with stuff like that. And they're not going to tell me because, frankly, they're embarrassed. Like, don't you guys understand? Like, when you say that kind of stuff, all you're doing is showing the world how freaking ignorant you are. And then the other side of that is, I've seen so many good guys get accused of things that they didn't do, or get hemmed up for stuff that they didn't do. You know, like, I bring up my buddies with Blackwater, Raven 23. They were freaking crucified and put in prison virtually for the rest of their lives because a politician thought he had something to gain by doing that to them. And everybody is out there right now. They're looking to hang police officers. They're looking to get them in trouble, looking to punish them. Like, that's like a notch on your freaking bedpost is how many police officers you got fired, or how many police officers you got hemmed up on charges. And they're drumming up the stupidest stuff. They're making they can't find things to punish us for, so they're making new rules and making it harder and harder and harder for us to do our job. And if you step on a crack, then they're gonna be like, oh look, that officer, that's a bad officer. You know, they put you in impossible situations that you can't possibly do with the resources that you have. And then when you fail at what they ask you to do, they try to put you in jail for it. They try to take away your livelihood. It's just crazy. I can't. It's exhausting. It really is. You know, there's a lot of dudes out there that I might think are good dudes and doing everything on the up and up. Maybe they're not. I know that those guys are 1 in a million. The guys like Marco, they're 1 in a million. Guys who can play it off like they're good, but they're not. And I don't even know if he's, I don't know. It's just hard. It's not as easy as people think. We're not just out there covering up for each other. It's not how it works. When you say that kind of stuff, you're just putting your own ignorance on display. That's really all I have to say. So, I don't know if I made any sense today, but that was a real conversation I just had with a good friend of mine about another good friend of ours who's going to go to prison, hopefully for the rest of his life. And you know, we're talking about this guy's wife, talking about how she breaks down and cries because she doesn't know how she's going to go on, and she's trying to support her husband. She's never done anything wrong. She just wants to believe that the guy that she married is a good dude, so she's going to try to defend him. How are you supposed to look at her, tell her what to do? I told my buddy, I don't know, there's probably no chance that Mark would ever see this, but if I ever saw him again, it'd be hard. I'd probably shake his hand and say, good luck, dude. Like, you're gonna need it. I'm not gonna treat him like shit, but he would have to know. He'd have to know where we stand. But if I were to go talk to his wife, I would tell her that she needs to forget about him. She needs to take her kids, do whatever she wants to do with her kids, but they need to erase that guy's memory. He's not in their lives. He's not to be in their lives forever. There's no getting out in 30 years and coming home and seeing your kid who's like 37 years old and having a relationship with him after you did what you did. There's no way back from that. It's mind-blowing. I can't imagine. Can't imagine what those kids are going through, what his wife is going through. I really can't. And I think the only way that it gets better for them is if they just write it off and they forget about it. I don't know if they're able to do that. I've kind of been in that position before. I've written off some people. I'm not going to name names, but I think people who have not actually met me in person that are watching, they might be surprised some of the people I've written out of my life. But I don't know, it's the way I am. So I don't know. I don't know if it made any sense or not, but I was just feeling some kind of way and I wanted to talk. So here I am talking. This is it's as raw as it gets because I had no idea what I was going to say. I just knew that I wanted to talk about a conversation I had with a good buddy of mine tonight about someone who used to be a good friend of mine, and I'll never see him again. So thanks for watching. If you've made it this far, I'll talk to you guys later.